Sophia, I couldn't help but notice that message on your screen. No, fix it. That's it? No hello, no could you please, not even a thanks?
That's what I love about my manager, Dad. It's efficient. I don't need a 5-paragraph essay just to know I made a typo in a spreadsheet.
Efficiency is one thing, but that is just plain rude. In my day, if you sent a note like that, you'd be called into the office for a talk about professional decorum.
In 2026, professional decorum just feels like a waste of time. We're all busy. Why wrap the truth in layers of fake politeness? It's what we call sugar coating.
It's not fake, Sophia. It's a social lubricant. It keeps the gears of a team running without grinding against each other. Without it, you're just throwing rocks at your colleagues.
I'd rather have a rock thrown at me than a polite lie. We're practicing radical candor, being direct because we actually care about the work, not just the vibe of the office.
Radical? It sounds more like radical rudeness to me.
Today, we're diving into the politeness paradox of 2026. Is traditional etiquette a dying art, or is it just a mask for inefficiency holding us back?
I still believe that manners maketh man. A little formality goes a long way in building the mutual respect that keeps a team together.
But Dad, radical candor is the new standard for a reason. In 2026, direct honesty is the highest form of respect, and everything else is just sugarcoating.
It feels like we are losing the social lubricant that once kept professional relationships healthy. My generation valued a tactful approach that prioritized people's feelings.
Hello there, listeners. Before we jump into the heart of the debate, we should introduce ourselves properly.
Hello, I'm David. I built my career on grit and a firm handshake, arriving here decades ago with just 2 suitcases.
And I'm Sophia, a master's graduate in business communication. This podcast is designed for B2 to C1 English learners who crave intellectual and authentic talks.
I'm David, and we have real provocative debates here. I often make linguistic mistakes, and Sophia provides those radical candor corrections.
We'll fix Dad's grammar and decide if sugarcoating is a relic of the past. Spoiler alert, sometimes the truth hurts, but a typo in a 2026 market report hurts the company much more. Welcome back. Today we're dissecting why the 2026 corporate world is ditching the best regards and embracing the blunt reality of radical candor.
It's a sad day for culture because those pleasantries were the social lubricant that prevented coworkers from hating each other.
Actually, research shows that 68% of Gen Z employees prefer direct feedback over the sandwich method because it feels more authentic.
But being authentic shouldn't mean being a brute who forgets to say good morning before pointing out a flaw.
If I have a flaw in my code, I want to know immediately, not after 3 minutes of small talk about the weather.
Sometimes you just have to swallow the bullet and realize that a little bit of sugarcoating isn't hypocrisy. It's basic human empathy.
Wait, Dad, you're mixing idioms. It's either bite the bullet or swallow the pill. If you swallow a bullet, you need an ambulance, not empathy.
Fine, bite the bullet. I just feel like this new honesty is just a cover for poor social skills.
It's not poor skills. It's about prioritizing the project's success over someone's fragile ego.
Well, your project might succeed, but you'll be the most efficient person in an empty room.
In 2026, the room is digital, and my peers value my clarity more than my formal regards.
But what happens when you have to deliver truly bad news without any social decorum to soften the blow?
We use radical candor, which means we challenge directly because we care personally about the person's growth.
Caring personally usually involves asking about someone's life before you call them out on their mistakes.
That's just beating around the bush, and data shows it leads to more anxiety, not less.
I suppose the truth is easier to digest for your generation, but I still miss the grace of a polite email.
Is the social lubricant truly dying, or are we just evolving into a more efficient species? Let's look at the actual cost of politeness in the next segment.
Cost? You're talking about manners like they're a subscription service, Sophia. It doesn't cost a single penny to be a decent human being and say please or thank you.
In theory, maybe. But in 2026, we call it the efficiency tax. Data shows that employees now spend nearly 20% of their workday just deciphering polite corporate jargon and passive-aggressive emails. That's one full day a week wasted on niceties.
Deciphering. It's called reading between the lines, Sophia. It is a vital survival skill in any organization. It is how you navigate a professional setting without causing a scene every time there is a disagreement.
I'd rather have a clear map than a polite riddle. Last month, I sat through such a formal meeting that I didn't even realize my proposal was being rejected until I was halfway home. I wasted 3 weeks waiting for a yes that was actually a no wrapped in silk.
That formality is exactly how you maintain the dignity of the person you're rejecting. In my 30 years of management, I never told a lie to my team. I just softened the blow to keep the morale high and the social lubricant flowing.
But softening the blow is just a high-interest loan on the truth, Dad. Eventually, the bill comes due. I leave the room confused, and the company loses time. Why spend 15 minutes on how was your weekend when the server is literally on fire?
Because those 15 minutes are where the human connection happens. If you want to be a leader, you have to bite the pill and be tactful.
Bite the bullet, Dad. Or swallow the pill. You're still mixing them up. And while you're struggling with your idioms, the 2026 market is moving 3 times faster than it did in the 90s. We literally don't have the budget for the politeness tax anymore.
You're treating professional life like a drive-through window. Speed is everything, and grace is nothing. If you remove the social lubricant, the whole machine is going to grind to a halt because of the friction between egos.
Or the machine will finally run at full speed because we aren't stopping every 5 seconds to check if everyone's feelings are okay. In 2026, clarity isn't just efficiency, it's the only true form of kindness.
Kindness? Sophia, clarity without empathy isn't kindness. It's just hostility.
Hostility? Dad, loyalty isn't built on please and thank you while the ship is sinking. If my work is subpar, the most hostile thing you can do is stay silent, just to be polite. That's not loyalty, that's professional negligence.
It's not about being silent, Sophia. It's about the psychological safety that keeps a team from snapping. A company is a living organism, not a spreadsheet. When there's hostility, a real leader steps in to nip it in the butt.
Wait, Dad, it's nip it in the bud, like a spring flower, not the butt. Please do not nip anyone's butt in the office. That is a massive HR violation.
Right. Nip it in the bud. If I just challenge directly, as you say, without the care personally part, I'm not a mentor. I'm just a digital hammer hitting every nail in sight. How do you lead a team if everyone is afraid to make a mistake because you'll call them out without any grace?
But that's the politeness paradox. By trying to save my feelings, you're actually keeping me from growing. In 2026, 64% of high-performing teams cite fearless transparency as their top motivator. They don't want the sandwich method. You know, praise, then the bad news, then more praise. We call that the compliment sandwich, and it tastes like a lie.
It's not a lie, it's a buffer. It tells the person, I value you, even if this specific task failed. If you just give me the raw, cold truth, you're stripping away the social lubricant that makes work tolerable.
In 2026, we don't want tolerable, we want impactful. When you beat around the bush, I have to spend 10 minutes trying to find the actual critique hidden in your graceful speech. That is sugarcoating, Dad, and it's a form of manipulation.
Manipulation? It's called being tactful. I worry that your generation is trading the weight of leadership for the speed of a Slack message. Real mentorship happens in the nuances, the stuff you can't say in a bullet point.
And I worry your generation is trading impact for performative decorum. If your culture breaks because I told you the truth directly, then your culture was never that strong to begin with.
I still believe being shoulder to shoulder means sharing the burden of the truth with kindness, not just throwing it at someone's head.
So, is the truth a gift that helps us grow or a weapon that ruins the vibe? Let's dig into the death of the clock and how this honesty affects our time in the next part. Dad, if clarity saves us 20% of our day by cutting out the fluff, why are you still trying to fill that extra time with the synchronous fallacy?
It's not a fallacy, Sophia. It's about availability. If I message you at 2 p.m. and you ignore me for 3 hours because you're protecting your deep work, that isn't radical candor. It's just professional ghosting.
It's not ghosting, it's respecting the death of the clock. The 9-to-5 model was built for an era where you had to be physically present just to prove you were polite and working. In 2026, I deliver the result, not my attendance.
But a team needs real-time energy. You can't run a global strategy on a time delay. To resolve this, I suggest to synchronize our core hours so we can actually...
Wait, Dad. Suggest synchronizing. You never suggest to do something. You always suggest doing it. The verb suggest is followed by a gerund.
Size. Fine, I suggest synchronizing because without shared time, there is no shared urgency. You're trading camaraderie for convenience and you're becoming a freelancer renting our logo.
It's not convenience, it's cognitive optimization. If I have to break my flow every 15 minutes to say, "Hi, how was your lunch?" to every Slack ping, my productivity crashes. Honesty means admitting that those polite interruptions are actually destroying my output.
You might have killed the industrial clock, but I worry you've replaced it with something worse. If 2 a.m. is just as valid as 2 p.m. because of your efficiency, tell me, when do you actually sign off?
Pausing thoughtfully. That's the remote paradox. I thought I was gaining autonomy through honesty, but I've basically turned my sanctuary into a 24-hour honesty lab where the work never truly ends.
Exactly. You didn't tear down the office walls, Sophia. You just invited the office to live in your bedroom.
Silence for 2 seconds, then.
Never truly ends.
Don't look at me like that. I didn't invent the 24-hour clock.
No, you just invented the culture that filled it with chores. That phrase, hearing it in my own living room, it's nauseating, Dad.
It's reality. You wanted to work from the couch. Well, the couch is now an office. Welcome to the freedom you campaigned for.
This isn't freedom. It's an invasion. I thought radical candor would give me sovereignty over my time, but I've just turned my sanctuary into a high-stakes honesty lab.
Because you tore down the walls. You didn't liberate yourself. You just gave your boss a key to the house. You're always home, so you're always available.
Available doesn't mean on call.
Tell that to your management. If I can't see you at a desk, my brain, and trust me, every boss's brain, starts staring at that green status light.
The digital leash.
Exactly. It's the only tether left. If it goes gray for 10 minutes, the trust evaporates.
That's not management, Dad. That's surveillance. In 2026, we've realized that being always on is a symptom of a toxic, dishonest culture.
Oh, please. You call it toxic. I call it staying afloat. If the server crashes at midnight and the ship starts sinking, are you going to quote your HR manual while the water hits your knees?
If the ship is sinking every night at midnight, the captain is incompetent.
The captain is trying to survive. I look forward to see the look on your face when a client actually demands accountability instead of boundaries.
Wincing. Stop. Just stop.
What? Truth hurts?
No, your grammar hurts. I look forward to hearing, or look forward to seeing.
Are you seriously doing this right now? in the middle of an argument about your career?
Precision is part of the career, Dad. Look forward to. The to is a preposition. It's not an infinitive marker. It requires a gerund.
Fine. I look forward to hearing your excuse when you're unemployed because you were too busy protecting your silence to answer a ping.
Silence isn't laziness. Silence is where the deep work happens, the honest work, not this performative clicking just to keep a dot green.
Performative, it's connection, Sophia. It's the social lubricant you hate so much. Without it, you're just a node, a silo.
I'd rather be a productive silo than a burnt-out puppet on a digital string.
A silo has no soul. You disconnect the leash. You disconnect from the collective heartbeat. You'll be free, sure. Free and completely alone.
Her phone pings. She glances at it, jaw tightening. See? That's not a heartbeat. That's a Pavlovian bell.
And you're the one who salivates.
Because people like you taught us that ignoring it is a sin. We didn't conquer the office, Dad. The office just colonized our bedrooms.
Then move the desk out of the bedroom.
Laughs bitterly. Where? To the kitchen? So I can have radical candor over my cereal?
It's about the soul of the work, Sophia. If there's no ritual, no starting, and no stopping, the work becomes a ghost that haunts you.
It's not a ghost. It's a digital leash, and you're the one holding the other end.
I'm not holding it. The market is holding it. I'm just the one telling you to stop complaining about the weight of the collar you chose to put on.
I didn't choose the collar. I chose the right to disconnect. 2026 isn't about being more available, it's about being more human.
Being human requires presence, real presence, not a green dot.
Then stop managing the dot. Manage the output.
I can't manage what I can't feel, and I can't feel the heartbeat of a silo.
Sophia grabs her phone, but instead of answering, she flips it face down on the table with more force than necessary. There. Disconnected. Is the soul of the company dead yet?
No, but your radical candor is starting to sound a lot like a tantrum.
A tantrum? That's what you call a boundary in 2026? If a man does it, he's decisive. If I do it, I'm having a moment.
Gender's got nothing to do with it. It's the vibe. You're using radical candor as a shield to avoid the messy human side of work. You think as long as you're efficient, you don't owe anyone your presence.
I owe them output, Dad, not my soul. If I give 100% from 9 to 5, why should I feel guilty for being a silo at 6?
Because work isn't just closing tickets on a screen. It's the friction, the coffee machine jokes, the annoying boss dropping by. That friction keeps the gears moving. You've replaced presence with transparency, and you're wondering why it feels cold.
It's cold because transparency only goes one way. They want my status light and my feedback, but not my burnout. They want the truth, but they aren't used to handle the fallout of that truth.
Sighs. There you go. You're losing the we for the they. And for the record, I am used to deal with tough truths. I've survived 3 recessions.
Tapping her headphones. Stop. You're doing it again.
Doing what? Being experience?
Being grammatically wrong. You said you're used to handle and used to deal.
Oh, not the grammar police now. We're in a deep dive.
It's the same mistake, Dad. When used to means being accustomed to something, the to is a preposition. It must be followed by a gerund.
So,
you're used to handling consequences. You're used to dealing with truths. If you can't adapt to grammar, how can you adapt to a workforce that refuses to be tethered?
fine. I'm used to dealing with your corrections, but are you used to facing the reality that without social lubricant, your candor is just hostility?
It's clarity.
Clarity without empathy is just cruelty. You're 28 and talking like a machine programmed to maximize ROI.
Because if I don't, I'm replaceable. That's the 2026 reality. In your day, loyalty bought a watch. Now, it just gets you a tighter leash.
So the answer is to sit in the dark?
The answer is to reclaim the quiet. If I don't own my silence, I don't own my thoughts.
Looking at the sign. Well, we're still on the clock. Are you going to disconnect on our listeners too?
Small smile. No, arguing with you is the only social lubricant I have left.
See? Hope yet. Let's take a break.
I look forward to having it.
We keep talking about boundaries as if they're walls I built. But I didn't build them to keep people out, Dad. I built them so I wouldn't disappear. In 2026, if you don't define where you end and the company begins, they'll just swallow you whole.
And I'm telling you, those walls are made of glass. You think you're sovereign because you flipped your phone over? That's just a delay tactic. The market doesn't stop because Sophia wants to reclaim her silence.
That's exactly the toxic mindset we're dismantling. The market is just a collection of people. If we all agree that 7 p.m. is sacred, the market adapts. It's not a natural disaster, it's a choice.
A choice made by people who can afford to lose. You're young, talented, and arrogant. You think your radical candor makes you indispensable. But to a board of directors, you're just a line item that's suddenly object to cooperate with the collective goal.
Stop! You just hit a nerve and a grammatical landmine at the same time.
What? I'm talking about the bottom line, Sophia. Don't pivot to a comma or a tense.
It's not a tense, Dad. It's a preposition. You said I'm a line item that's object to cooperate.
So, you are. You're resisting the flow.
No, I object to cooperating with a system that demands my exhaustion. Object to is a phrasal verb where to is a preposition. It demands a gerund.
A gerund. We are talking about the survival of your career, and you are worried about ing endings.
Because precision matters. If you can't even get the preposition right, how can I trust your wisdom about the soul of work? If you say you're committed to change, do you mean the act of changing or just a vague idea?
I am committed to saving you from your own self-importance. Is that gerund enough for you?
Much better. Now, back to my self-importance. It's not about me being indispensable, it's about the fact that a collective goal that requires the destruction of the individual isn't a goal, it's a cult.
It's called a company, Sophia. Companis. Breaking bread together. You can't break bread if you're sitting alone in your silo with the door locked and your phone face down.
I'll break bread at lunch. I won't break my spirit at midnight just so a manager can feel connected to my stress.
It's not about your stress. It's about the heartbeat of the team. When you're off, the rhythm breaks.
Then the rhythm is a heartbeat with an arrhythmia. If one person disconnecting for a night causes a cardiac arrest, the organization is already dead. You're just looking at a ghost.
Then maybe it's time we talk about what actually haunts you. Because it's not the digital leash. It's the fear that if you actually did connect, you wouldn't know how to turn yourself back on.
Sophia opens her mouth to retort, but the words catch in her throat. She looks at the on-air light, then back at her father. Turn myself back on? I'm not a machine, Dad. I'm just tired of pretending that a green status dot means I care.
But you don't care. You're so obsessed with optimizing your time that you've optimized the humanity right out of your job. Connection isn't consumption. It's friction. The small talk, the random check-ins, those annoyances make you a person instead of an algorithm.
I don't need small talk to do my job. If I'm present for every triviality, I'm present for nothing.
If you only show up for the big things, you're a stranger, and nobody trusts a stranger in a crisis. You preach radical candor, but how can you be radically honest with someone you only know as an avatar?
Honesty isn't based on talking about the weather. It's based on the work. I don't need to know your favorite color to tell you your strategy is failing.
But you need to know the person to know how to tell them. That's the lubricant you hate. Without it, your clarity is just a punch to the gut. You're devoted to be right, but you aren't devoted to be helpful.
Stop! You're doing it again!
What? I'm talking about empathy.
No, you're making a mess of the grammar. You said devoted to be.
Are we really doing this now?
Yes, precision matters. Devoted to is a prepositional phrase. It requires a gerund. You are devoted to being right. You aren't devoted to being helpful.
Fine. I am dedicated to making you understand that work is a community. Is that better?
Grammatically, yes. Logically, no. You think presence requires proximity. I think presence is an intentional act. I am more present in a focused 1-hour deep dive than you were in 8 hours of sitting in a cubicle reading memos.
It was about being available for the unexpected. The magic of the hallway. You've optimized the hallway out of existence, Sophia. You've lost the spontaneity.
The hallway was where people went to avoid actual responsibilities. I am not sterile, Dad. I'm just finished with the performance.
Is it a performance or a ritual? Without rituals, the day has no shape. If you don't go to work, you never leave it. You didn't invite the boss into your bedroom. You just forgot to build a door.
I just traded a physical cage for a digital one. Now I'm trying to find the key.
The key isn't in your notification settings, Sophia. It's in the people you are trying to ignore.
So the key is the people. But if I give them the key to my time, they won't just visit, Dad. They'll move in. They'll colonize the living room.
Then you set visiting hours. That's what a boundary actually is, Sophia. It's not a brick wall. It's a door with a lock and a welcome mat.
A door. She traces the edge of her phone. I guess radical candor without the lubricant is just broadcasting. It's a monologue.
Exactly. And work is a dialogue. You have to be willing to listen, even when it's not perfectly efficient.
I can listen, but I'm still not answering a ping at 8 p.m. If the server is actually on fire, they can call my real number, the emergency line. But the digital leash stays off.
I think I can live with that, as long as you actually pick up the emergency line when it rings.
I will, because I'll be rested enough to actually put the fire out. I suppose we need a synthesis, a way to be radically honest about our limits, so we can be genuinely present when we're on the clock.
A human synthesis. I like the sound of that. It beats being a sterile node in a silo.
Don't push it. I'm still a node, just a slightly more social one.
I'll take what I can get. You know, Sophia, I confess to be a little proud of how you handled this today.
Dad, we were doing so well. We were having a moment.
What? I am having a moment!
You're having a grammar failure. Confess to be?
A gerund. It needs a gerund.
Yes! Confess to is a preposition. You confess to being proud.
Fine. I confess to being completely exhausted by your grammar rules. But I also confess to learning something.
See? The dinosaur adapts. And that's our show, folks. Episode 18. Radical Candor, Digital Leashes, and the Human Synthesis.
Next week, we're tackling AI managers. I look forward to arguing with you about that.
The gerund is flawless. Signing off. Okay, Dad. The radical candor debate is over, but your linguistic bugs need fixing. It's time for the drill session. Today's target? Your gerund failure.
Ah, yes. My battle with the ing endings. I am ready. Give me the download.
Here is the core issue. Most people see the word to and immediately think it's a to infinitive, meaning it has to be followed by a base verb.
Like, I want to sleep.
Right. That's what I learned in school. To plus verb. It's automatic.
But in phrases like object to, devoted to, or look forward to, that to is not an infinitive. It's a preposition. It's a directional arrow pointing at a target. You are devoted to a concept. You object to an idea.
So because it's a preposition, it needs a noun to point at.
Exactly. Prepositions must take nouns. So if your target happens to be an action, like cooperate or be, you have to hack that verb and turn it into a noun. How do we do that? We add -ing. That creates the gerund. It turns the action into a concept.
Let me make sure I process this. I can't be devoted to be right because be is a verb. I have to be devoted to the concept of being right.
Spot on. Your system is updating. Now, let's lock it in. Repeat. I object to cooperating.
I object to cooperating.
We are devoted to being helpful.
We are devoted to being helpful.
I confess to making a mistake.
I confess to making a mistake.
I look forward to arguing again.
I look forward to arguing again.
Flawless execution, Dad. The to plus gerund patch is officially installed.
I confess to feeling much better about my English.
And that's our grammar focus for today. As we completely wrap up episode 18, let's take a moment for our final reflection. Dad, after all our yelling about radical candor and the efficiency tax, where do we actually land?
I think we land on that human synthesis you mentioned. I have to accept that in 2026, clarity is a form of kindness. Wrapping every critique in bubble wrap doesn't protect the team. It just slows them down and creates confusion.
And I have to accept that friction isn't always a bug in the system. Those 15 minutes of unproductive small talk might just be the social lubricant that keeps the whole machine from overheating. Radical candor without the care personally part is just cruelty.
Exactly. It's not about choosing between being a highly optimized worker or being a decent human being. It's about finding a way to be both. You need the direct truth to survive, but you need the grace to make the survival worth it.
Well said, Dad. So, to everyone listening, protect your peace, set your digital boundaries, but don't forget to leave the door unlocked for the people who actually matter.
We'll be back next week. Until then, stay honest, but stay human.
See you in the real world!